I'd like to call to order the July 7th public hearing for the City of Tampa's Architectural Review Commission. Welcome, everyone. I'm Ted Kempton, Chair of the Commission. If you are here to present a project, you will have limited time to make your presentation, so we suggest being thorough but concise. When coming to the microphone, you will need to identify yourself and your relationship to the project. The commissioners will not ask any questions during your presentation. Your project should be presented in the following order: site plan, elevations, architectural details, wall sections. Staff will then present their report. We will then ask for public comment. Please state and spell your name clearly if you are here to speak for or against a project. Your time will be limited to 3 minutes, so take some time now to summarize your comments because 3 minutes goes by very quickly. Following public comment, the commissioners will ask questions in the same order as the presentation. Next, the applicant will have 5 minutes for rebuttal. The public hearing will then be closed. After the public hearing is closed, no further testimony can be given. The commissioners will then discuss the case and will make their decision based on the following: Chapter 27 of the City Code of Ordinances, the Design Guidelines, the Secretary of Interior Standards, Historic Preservation Development Review Committee comments, and the testimony given at the public hearing. The ARC can only act on items that are within our specific jurisdictional responsibility. Owner agents are independently responsible to obtain any appropriate permits and/or approvals. If you haven't already done so, please silence cell phones. And I will start on my left with the introduction of commissioners.
My name is John Prokop. I practice architecture.
Elena Ketchum, Attorney Representative.
Dan Myers, architect. Tim Jones, contractor.
Brian Hammond, architect.
Also in attendance, we have staff. We have Dennis Fernandez, Elaine Lund, Alexis Guzman, and our attorney, Dana Crosby Collier. All right, let's see. We got reading of the minutes June 2nd and 4th, so we need a motion to accept the minutes.
Motion to accept the minutes of June 2nd and June 4th as presented.
I second.
All right, any discussion? Not seeing any. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Good evening, Commissioners. Dennis Fernandez, Architecture Review and Historic Preservation Manager. Welcome to this evening's public hearing and to our applicants and those joining us on city television. First, I wanted to go ahead and enter the ARC staff approvals into the record. I have those, and they will be provided to the clerk, and we can accept those by motion at the end of the meeting. Next, I did want to call to the Commission's attention that in consultation with the chair, we found it necessary to establish an additional public hearing in the upcoming months and be able to manage our caseloads that we're currently experiencing, which are pretty significant. We are already at our maximum caseload for August and quickly approaching September's maximum caseload with still 2 weeks in this cycle for application submission. So in looking at that and the typical patterns of continuances and whatnot that we're seeing, I suggested an additional hearing in September to be able to manage those cases that are upcoming. And the one day that we had available for this room is September 17th. So I haven't polled you yet, and your availability, obviously you're key to that process, but we'll need to establish the date by motion first, and then we'll back check with you on availability if that is going to be an issue. So with that, Dana, is a motion necessary for that?
Yes, sir. If we can get a motion to set the special meeting date of September 17th, 2025 at 5:30 p.m. and a second, then you all can take a vote.
I move to establish a special hearing date of September 17th at 5:30 p.m.
I'll second.
All right, we have a second. Any discussion? All right, not seeing any discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes.
Thank you. With that, you'll find in your packets the July version of our Tampa Bricks and Mortar, our monthly newsletter. This month featuring historic markers, and that just happens to be the subject of our Preservation in Progress, which ask our staff member Elaine to walk you through. Elaine?
Thank you. Elaine Lund, Historic Preservation Staff. This month, we're looking at the historical markers. This is a program that we have locally, and it's also offered statewide. Here on the screen, you can see the unveiling of the Zion Cemetery marker. That's a recent addition to the city's and county's inventory of historical markers. Sorry. The historical markers in Tampa tell the stories of multiple aspects of our history. Initially, they were installed by various groups, including Rotary clubs, individuals, and nonprofit organizations like the Tampa Historical Society. Here we see markers that were erected by one of the Gasparilla crews, the United Daughters of the Confederacy, the Colonial Danes 17th Century, and the Ybor City Rotary Club. As you can see, there were quite a variety of organizations and people who worked very hard to put together these historic markers throughout the city. Currently, we encourage those who want to place a historical marker to go through either the state or our local historical marker program. The Florida Historical Marker Program is one of the Division of Historical Resources' most popular and visible public history programs. It's designed to raise awareness of Florida's rich cultural history and to enhance the enjoyment of our historic sites by our citizens and tourists. The marker applications that go to the state are reviewed by the State Historical Marker Council, an appointed committee of 3 preservation experts from around the state. The building structure or site that is the subject of the sign must meet the criteria for being either a Florida heritage site, being at least 30 years old, or a Florida heritage landmark, being at least 50 years old, since the important historical event or construction has happened. You can recognize the state's historic markers by the 3 palm trees that are at the top of the marker. Locally, we have a Hillsborough County Historic Advisory Council, which was established in 1996 to create a uniform historical marker program for the applications that do not go through the state. This advisory council has representatives from Hillsborough County, the cities of Tampa, Plant City, and Temple Terrace. And this advisory council oversees nearly 200 markers throughout Hillsborough County, and of which approximately 175 are in the city of Tampa. Sorry, and then I just wanted to point out that the historical markers, as we see on the Woolworth sit-in marker, can be double-sided. This one talks about the history on one side, and then, I don't know if you can make that out on your screens, but it does provide a list of some of the participants who were at the February 29th, 1980 sit-in. Faded, worn, and damaged markers that are not state markers will go through the Historical Advisory Council's program also for restoration and replacement. In this case, I believe the Hillsborough River Ferry marker was removed and then replaced with this new marker, which features the Hillsborough County logo at the top, and on the bottom notes that it's a replacement marker that was erected by the Hillsborough County Historical Advisory Council in 2022. Additionally, in addition to repair and restoration and replacement of the existing historic markers, the committee also updates some of the signs to improve readability and historical accuracy. The markers that are reviewed by the Hillsborough County Advisory Council must be approved by the county historian. And marker text is limited to 1,350 characters per side. As I noted earlier, these markers may be they can have the same text on both sides, or they can be dual-sided. And photographs also are included now on some of the signs, which you can see on these, which were, so we have the marker for Cespedes Hall in West Tampa, and the Palmasea Spring in South Tampa, and those were erected in 2024 and 2025. Once a marker is approved by this council, production usually takes 10 to 12 months. So the historical markers are placed in the public right-of-way, and they may be celebrated with a dedication ceremony. Here we see some of the additional recent markers that were put up around the city, including the one for Memorial Park Cemetery, the Blake High School, and the Kid Mason Community Center. The Memorial Cemetery and the Kid Mason Center are also historic landmarks. And with that, that summarizes our historical markers program. So I'll hand it back over to Mr. Fernandez.
Thank you, Elaine. And this is, one tool in being able to both educate and celebrate our past. Often we get calls in our office, we did today as a matter of fact, for, individuals in the community who want to kind of celebrate a historical event or historical building that's no longer present. And so this is an avenue that they can pursue. Obviously, there's a workload to that program, but if they're committed to seeing that through and approaching the Historic Advisory Council, that is an avenue to be able to celebrate and realize some recognition of a building or an event that there's not a physical presence for. So it's a great tool. It's one of several that we support in our activities, and very grateful to the county for funding that program and for the city for supporting it. With that, we'll continue on with our agenda. We have our disclosure of conflicts of interest and ex parte communication, and I'll ask Dana to lead that conversation.
Hi, good evening. Dana Crosby Collier from the City Attorney's Office. I would like to ask if any member has a conflict of interest with any item on the agenda this evening.
I do not.
Thank you. And has any member engaged in an ex parte communication regarding any item on the agenda?
I have not.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. With that, we do have some continuations. I think we'll take these in two different motions, with the first being for ARC 25-272, requesting a continuance to Monday, September 8th, 2025 at 5:30 p.m.
I move to continue ARC 25-0000272 at 725 South Brevard Avenue to the Monday, September 8th, 2025 public hearing at 5:30 p.m.
I'll second.
All right, we have a second. Seeing no discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. The next two cases are two components of a single recommendation that the commission will be engaging in. This is anticipated to be at the just established September 17th, 2025 public hearing. There are multiple numbers on that. I'll let you go ahead and read those off. But the property is 613 South Magnolia Avenue. And as I said, September 17th, 2025 at 5:30 p.m. is the requested date.
I move to continue ARC 25-0000226 /REZ 25-48 at 613 South Magnolia Avenue, and ARC 25000227/VAC 25-08 at 613 South Magnolia Avenue, both to the September 17th special hearing at 5:30 PM.
I'll second the motion.
All right, we have a motion, not seeing any discussion. All in favor signify by saying yes. Aye.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. We're now ready for our case, so to begin, we will have the swear-in. Anyone in the audience who's going to be presenting this evening or providing public comment, if you could please stand and raise your right hand for Ms. Guzman to issue the swear-in.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you providing today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. May be seated.
And with that, our first case is ARC 25-000047 for the property at 2904 North Elmore. And Ms. Lund will introduce the case.
Thank you. Again, Elaine Lund, Historic Preservation Staff. This application on North Elmore Avenue is located in the Tampa Heights Historic District. The request is for new construction of a single-family residence with an accessory structure and site improvements. I'll move to the photo essay. The first thing you should see in the photo essay is the map of the Tampa Heights Historic District and the location map pointing out the subject property. It should be shown in green. Does everyone have that on their screens? Yes, okay. This particular property is located south of Florabraska Avenue and north of Roble Street. This is the 1920s Sanborn map. Whoops. If you bear with us a moment, we have a technical issue here.
So just when it's your turn, just click on that, and hit PC, and it'll come right up.
This one?
Yep.
Okay.
So it should be on there. Just bring that down. Use that again.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you.
The 1920s Sanborn map shows that there was a dwelling previously somewhat on this site. Let me show you the current, this is the current aerial map, so you can see the subject parcel. And note that it was once part of a larger parcel. The proposed application is a particularly narrow lot, so there are challenges inherent in designing on that. This is the subject site, the vacant parcel on Elmore Avenue, looking into it from Elmore facing west. This is the property directly, or the parcel directly to the north. You see that it is also vacant. And looking directly to the south, we have I think this is actually used as like the backyard of a property facing the south, the street to the south, but this area is vacant as well. And this is looking north on Elmore Avenue, so we're looking toward Florabraska, and you can see the wall of I-275 there next to the historic district. That's our district boundary. And then looking south on Elmore Avenue. And that concludes the photo presentation, so at this time we'll have the applicant present their request.
All right, this is our, sorry guys, my name's Tyler Thibodeau with Onyx Construction. This is our project here at 2904 North Elmore. Here's our topographical and boundary survey. As Elaine mentioned, it's somewhat of a narrow lot, 32 by 112. Here you have an illustration of our site plan. In the corner here, it's got pervious area, total site is about 3,500 square feet. And it's got your total living area, which is close to 2,000. So this is the main house here on the front. We are about 12 feet off of the front lot line, which matches some of the one of the existing houses on the street. The other is closer to, I believe, 24. And we chose the more narrow one. We can average those out and go closer to 18 if need be. This is a proposed ADU in the back section here. This adds some additional detail, finished floor elevation, 41 3/4. This is also our drainage plan here with some swales going around the property to handle water from the other surrounding properties. This was all done by our engineer, and it will be signed and sealed when need be, but this is all prepared by an engineer for us here. We have some elevations of the property. The front elevation details brick, stucco, cut stucco across the front, square columns to match with the vernacular architectural style. 6 to 8 inch lap siding was chosen for this one here. Made sure to align the windows in almost every direction that we could. Trimmed out what we believe is in an appropriate manner. And the ridge vent here was also trimmed out in a similar manner. 25'2" to the peak. This roof can be, we can change the pitch of this roof and lower this if it needs to be. We have some side entry steps to the front porch here. Regular asphalt shingle roof, lap siding to match, and we switched to smooth stucco down the side of the property. South elevation is very similar. There's a staircase here, so we struggle getting some windows in. Towards this back half, there's a closet and a laundry room, so we can't really do any windows down here. Possibility to maybe add one window on the top if that's what we're looking to do. Rear section here very similar to the front. Smooth stucco on the bottom, lap siding, windows trimmed out in a historical manner there. Louver vent to match. We have some porch details here. Wrapping some of the beams on the front with just some 1x siding to match. No detail to it, it's all pretty smooth. Here we have a couple details of how the corners come together. 5/4. 1x4 corner trim. It's kind of standard with the Hardy lap siding. Column profile, 10-inch square column, 1x4 on the top, 1x6 on the bottom. Here's our wall section. Dimensional shingles. The overhang here, we have a Hardy board vented soffit, 1x6 fascia board. And we get into a little bit of the window detail. This is a 2x4 framed house. It's a little bit more of a narrow lot, so we opted for that in lieu of block where you're gonna have, 10-inch thick walls probably. We recessed the window as far back in the wall as we could, to give it that historical setback with the window sitting back in the wall a little bit. Trim board on the rim joist to cover up the ends, give it a little break in character from second floor to first floor. Again with the Hardy lap siding. Block foundation detail here, a little stem wall. This will be a smooth stucco finish on the sides, brick on the front of the house where it'll be visible. This gets into the elevations of the ADU in the back. Similar architectural style as the front house. Smooth stucco on the bottom, similar columns, 10x10 square columns trimmed out to match. Windows are trimmed out to match. Everything is pretty much identical as the rest of the property. Corner trim, Hardy lap siding. Ridge vents trimmed out to match the windows. Here's a wall section of that as well. They have this being framed too. Dimensional shingles. 16-inch overhangs, Hardy board vented soffit. Similar windows here. We'll get into the window details on some of the cut sheets. And this is as well on a stem wall foundation here. I'll get into the cut sheets of some of these. These are just pretty much your standard impact rated single hung vinyl window here. We can add some grills if need be to blend in with an architectural style of mind. Hardy plank siding. This is a smooth Hardy plank siding, 6-inch, 8-inch lap. They make other sizes, but I think this is a preferred choice for down in this area. Weatherwood shingles, if we're going to choose a color right now, just your standard kind of dimensional shingle at this time. Here's a cut sheet of the Hardy vented soffit siding, smooth to match with the lap siding. Corner trim here going down the sides of the house around the windows. These come in various different sizes, 3, 4, 2-inch, 6-inch, 8-inch, 10. We'll use this kind of same lumber around the house to match. Some possible front porch lights. They're not shown on the elevations. I think we had planned on doing some soffit lights. I think these will probably fit into the character of the neighborhood and feel more appropriate for the style of the house. So we're probably gonna incorporate those. Here's a cut sheet of the columns. We can either order these or make these. They're just kind of standard 10x10 trim board at the top with a bigger trim board at the bottom. Here's an example of the brick stucco pattern on the foundation for the front half of the house, and a possible option for the front door. driveway ribbons to match here, fit in with the area. The flare on this side has been shortened to match the lot line here. This flare appears to be dimensioned, but it's hidden. 6 foot. 6 by 6 driveway flare there. And again, on this opposite side, it's just limited to the lot line. There's an existing fence down this north lot line here. We're not proposing any changes to the fence. That is all I have.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Commissioners, Elaine Lund with the staff report. So our findings were that this application was consistent with conditions, and there were a number of conditions listed in the staff report. These do appear to be met for the most part. There was some additional information provided this evening that was not provided previously on, I believe, just on some of the materials there. And just to note that we typically do not approve the struck stucco or textured stucco, patterned stucco rather, for the brick. And I don't believe I have any other comments for this project at this time, so I'm available if you have questions. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you very much. Is there anybody in the audience that is here to speak for or against this project?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rick Fernandez. I was here when this project came through the first time, maybe even the second time, I don't recall now. My address is 2906 North Elmore Avenue. I'm right next door to the subject property to the north. By way of introduction, I'm president of the Tampa Heights Civic Association. I own the properties abutting the subject property to the north as well as to the west. I'm a Tampa Heights native, born and raised. I can't speak the language of architects or developers. I'm a recovering attorney, but I can speak authoritatively, I think, about what does and what does not fit in this neighborhood. And what is being proposed here by the applicants, in my opinion, does not fit the character and should be rejected. Please note, I do not oppose development on this property. I'm here to oppose bad development on this property. Having lived at my current home since 2011, I have come to appreciate the historic character of the neighborhood. My home was built circa 1925 and is a contributing structure to the historic district. There are several contributing structures, homes, within a block or two of the subject property, and the plans you have just seen bear no resemblance to any of them. For example, and this is not intended to be inclusive or all-inclusive, the shape of the proposed building, in my view, is all wrong. It's straight up and down, long, skinny, looks like a shotgun house of the sort we might appropriately see in Ybor City, the old casitas. Shotgun house disguised behind bungalow pillars. The second floor is also, in my opinion, wrong for the neighborhood. In our neighborhood, most of the homes of the historic era, the second floors are set back from the front of the house. Not so here. Windows also appear inconsistent. Again, in my neighborhood, you see, for example, paired windows, 2 or 3 large sash windows united by a continuous header and sill. Not the case here. To the developers, I say if the historic district is to mean anything, builders should hold themselves to the historic standards. Take a drive around the neighborhood, get creative, and come back with something that is additive, that actually provides value. To you, the ARC, my request is simple. Protect our historic integrity and reject this application. Finally, there are two procedural points I wanted to make. I guess the principal one, if you look at sheet S1 in the site plan, these are the elevation drawings, north, south, east, and west. The north and south elevations are inappropriately designated. They're exactly opposite what you see there. The north elevation is actually the south is actually the north. Significant to me because the north elevation is what I'm going to be looking at for my property. I would hope that that would be corrected as a matter of record and corrected in the site plan. That's all I got. Unless there's some questions.
Thank you very much.
Thank
No
you.
questions.
Oh, okay. Thank you. My name is Roger Grunke. I am a resident at 2708 North Elmore, so a neighbor to this proposed project. I also do not oppose the development of this site. I don't think that what currently is being proposed meets the guidelines. However, on the positive side, we're happy to see an ADU included in the design because this will increase population density, and it is only with that we can have transit at some point. On the negative side, fundamentally, the problem is with mass and scale. Now you see here on the drawing, this is simplification of what is being proposed. This is what we find in the neighborhood, a very multifaceted homes with multifaceted facades with small projections that have their own roofs. So this massing is more like something like Greek revival than it is either Craftsman bungalow or Victorian, which are the two predominant styles in the immediate neighborhood. So this is incompatible. Here you see compatible, and what we mean by that is the roof is all broken up, and it's broken up by the massing. It grows out of the massing. That's where the design and that's where the details come from. They're not something slapped on like decoration. You could strip a good Craftsman bungalow of all of its decoration, and the form would still read as a Craftsman bungalow. The same with Victorian. Look at the roofs again. Here is the proposed roof. This is what we have in the neighborhood. Therein lies the richness that is lacking in this project. Also, the facade of this building, the north and the south, very, very long, very few windows, something that is alien to the neighborhood. We support the project, but we ask that it be returned and further developed and improved. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else here to speak for or against the project? Okay, not seeing any. I will start with questions from the commissioners on my right.
I don't have any questions.
Okay.
Can you pull the site plan back up so we can see the setbacks? And what is this property zoned?
RS 50, I believe.
So I guess my question for, I don't know who, for legal, I guess, maybe? Or for Mr. Fernandez, we have a 5-foot setback on the sides and setbacks for RS 50s is 7. Do you have to have a variance?
I believe
Because,
Elaine can answer that question.
okay,
Elaine Lund, Historic Preservation Staff. There's a provision in our zoning code that allows for properties in this zoning category to have a 5-foot setback on one side, as long as they have a total of, I believe it is 14 feet for setbacks altogether. They're, looks like they have 15 with the 10 feet on the north side and the 5 feet on the south.
okay. And can we go to the top right-hand side of that site visit, that site plan, so I can see the impervious calculations? Okay. There was a note on one of your wall details for the beams on the front porch that the back side of the beam was going to be wrapped with just CDX plywood and then some wood trim, but then you called out that you're going to use hardy for the trim. Which one is it? Is it hardy or is it wood that you're going to be using? All of your trim notes are stating wood.
These state, it's probably hard to get hardy maybe in 1x12s.
No, you can get it in 1x12.
Okay. They can be either wood painted or hardy painted. Either one, I think, is we're open with.
Okay. And that's all the questions I had.
I have a question as to what is the typical lot size on this street? Or it's, you know, if it varies substantially? I mean, it is surprising. I believe this is 32 feet wide. What are the other lot sizes? Do we know that?
This is Elaine Lund, Historic Preservation Staff. If we can go back to the aerial photograph, you can get an idea. So let me get the right file open for you here. So along this block, you see sort of a variation on the north and south ends of the block. The properties face the side streets there, or I guess. So there is some variation with those. This is the narrowest, I believe, on this block.
Okay, so this is the narrowest house on the block, and perhaps the agent can tell us what is the setback on the larger house that is on the other side of the vacant lot to the north of the property?
To the north of the property, I believe they are roughly 2906 is roughly 24 feet, and 2908 is roughly 12 feet to the front porch.
Okay, thank you. And can we get what the dimension is on the the lot just to the north? It seems that someone knows.
I have it right here, if you just give me a second.
Oh, okay.
2906, correct?
Yes, I believe that's it. The first lot north of the property here.
The vacant one or the one with the house on it?
The vacant one.
The vacant one is 43 by 200.
Okay. And what are the sizes of the columns on both the accessory dwelling unit and the residence?
They are a 10 by 10,
So both are 10 by 10?
yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Hi, were there other homes that you looked to in the neighborhood for the overall design of this house, or where did that come from? If you know.
There were, I do not have those addresses, but I can provide them. We actually had one of our employees go bike around the neighborhood and go find similar houses. So we come up with a list of similar setbacks up and down Elmore Street. And there were a few other houses that were pretty similar too.
And were they all straight back with no, bay windows, or what's your sense?
Yeah, one of them I actually really remember that it did not meet the architectural style at all, and I was very surprised that he even brought it back to me as an example. 502 East Robles around the corner. I could have that address incorrect, but I don't believe that had any step outs and bay windows on it. It did have the 8-foot front porch with an overhang.
Okay, thank you.
What is the overall width of this house?
17 feet, I do believe.
So it's 17 feet. Given that the setbacks have to add up to a minimum of 14, and you've got it at 15, and a 32-foot wide site, so we have a 17-foot house. What are the setbacks for the ADU? Do you have those?
3 on one side, 5 on the other, and then our lot kind of tapers here, with the narrowest being 5.5.
Okay. And is that a lot to the west of you? Is that now a captured lot, like a landlocked lot?
Yes, that lot is also owned by the same person as the lot to the north.
Okay, so they're separate lots, but they
are indeed
connect.
separate.
Okay. It would be, for my edification, it'd be nice to see the adjacent properties on a site plan to show the relationships between them and you, and not just hear numbers, but to actually see graphically to prove to us that, the setbacks are not, are compatible with the neighborhood. It's much more easily to see that graphically than it is just be told a couple of dimensions. I don't think I have any other questions right now.
Okay, I've got a couple of questions. We'll start with the easy ones. That S1, it was brought up that the elevations are misnamed. Can we confirm that?
The elevations are misnamed.
It's one of the public comments was sheet S1.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So is that actually the north elevation?
This side would be facing north, yes,
Okay,
and this would be facing south.
okay. All right, so that was my first question. Second question, go back to the site plan, please. It looks like your site plan has not been updated. I just want to make sure, like you're showing 4 columns on the main house and you're showing 2 very large columns on the ADU. But your elevations don't appear to match that?
Yes, it appears you're correct.
Okay, so which is accurate? What do you?
Working with historical board here, they've kind of advised us to go with the 2 columns here. 4 on the front was a little bit too busy for this style here, being a narrower house. So this elevation is correct.
Okay, so for that purpose, we're looking at the elevations. Now, let's look at Your north elevation, you have a dimension there on the eave. Can you zoom in on that? That says 1 foot.
Yes.
Now, if you'll go to your wall sections, and I'm looking for the eave dimension on your wall sections.
This one right here.
Yeah, that says 16
16.
inches. So which one?
This is a side profile of the house. This is a side overhang. On the front,
So the front is 12 inches and the sides are 16 inches?
yes, that appears so.
But is that what you're intending?
I'm okay with it. I don't
Okay,
see, I think the engineer, my engineer in particular is really conscious about uplift and wind loads and stuff like that, so
okay, so that was intended.
it could be. I'd have to check with them.
Okay.
I'm okay with it if it is.
All right. And the overhangs, based on your wall sections, are gonna be the same on the ADU as the primary house?
Let me double check the ADU wall sections. 16 on the side. And they are not dimensioned on the gable ends.
Okay. Okay. All right, so let's go back to the site plan. All right. You said finished floor is 41, is that right?
Yes, 41 and 41.75.
Oh, 41.75, okay. I just want to look at your number of risers on your stairs. Because it looks like your front, you got 3 risers, and then on your side, you got 4 risers.
Yes, and that would conflict the drainage plan. The lot kind of slopes out towards the street.
Okay. Okay, we already said you don't have any lights shown. Besides the soffit lights at the front, are there any other light fixtures that you're proposing?
Nope, not at this moment.
Okay, well, now would be the time. All right.
No.
Okay, all right, so those are the easy ones. All right, so let's go higher level. You've heard some of the comments from the public. So walk me through, this is your second time?
Yes.
Okay. Walk me through the design process. Did you explore articulating any of the elevations or setting back the front?
Absolutely. On the first iteration, we had the ADU incorporated in the main house, and from the public, we heard comments about the mass of this, and I didn't disagree. It was pretty obscene. I wouldn't want to be a neighbor next to it. So we separated the structures and cut them out and separated them and spread them out throughout the lot a little bit. In our efforts to do this, we also reached out and emailed these plans to the Civic Association for some feedback from them. I think this was maybe 45 to 60 days ago. To my knowledge, we did not hear any comments back from them.
Okay. So, is there anything else you would do to this that you think would satisfy or would add any more compatibility?
We had some.
We heard about windows, and when you, in your presentation, you mentioned that you had the option for some additional windows, I believe you said, on the south?
I think there is some room to incorporate a window at the top of the stairs here on the south elevation.
Okay.
I was kind of checking this out before I got in here, but there's no window here in the bedroom or at the top of the stairs. I think one could be added at the top of the stairs and help break up that elevation.
Okay. Did you look at all at recessing that second story from the front elevation during your design process?
We're open to that. We recessed, the way this front porch kind of come together here in this overhang, we thought this step back here was breaking that up enough to satisfy us.
Okay. Did you, during your design process, look at articulating the north and south elevation at all?
We did, actually. I don't remember specifically what's driving this. We did actually mirror this elevation. I don't recall what's driving that.
I'm sorry, what's driving what?
What's driving the reason why we mirrored this elevation? This staircase was located on the opposite side,
Okay,
and we mirrored this floor plan.
I'm not following you by what you mean by you mirrored.
This staircase was located over here,
Oh,
so we just take the whole floor plan
Oh, I
and
gotcha.
flipped it.
Gotcha. Okay. And then, I think I know the answer on this. In your rear elevation, your windows are offset, and I'm assuming that's based on that closet?
Yes, I would say that's based on the closet downstairs. And then this one here, we like to have them aligned.
Okay. My only question is, it seems, when I look at that elevation, if you go back to it, it seems like the windows on the left, it just seems like it could be balanced a little bit better,
Yeah.
just looking at that. Okay, so you talked about your design process a little bit, and I'm hearing, depending on what the comments are, that you're open to some articulation. I'm just asking questions.
Yeah, absolutely. We had these columns, I think the bigger craftsman style columns, 18 inches at the base probably, and they tapered up to the top, and kind of through the process with historical review here, we changed them to 10-inch wood columns just to help with the mass of the front of this.
Okay. Okay, well, that's it for questions for me. Are there any other questions from commissioners at this point?
I guess I'll ask you at this point if you would be willing to move the single-family residence a little farther back from the street.
I think that's a reasonable request, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And then one other question I have is, I didn't see any screening of your AC units. What's your plan? You're not showing any fencing, but.
They are in between the units here. We believe they were pretty well hidden,
Okay.
out of sight, out of mind. We're also open to screening them if necessary.
Okay. Okay. Last call for questions from the commissioners. Not seeing any. You have 5 minutes for rebuttal, if you so choose.
Sorry.
You have 5 minutes for rebuttal, if you so choose.
Oh, I think I'm good.
Okay, good. All right, at this point, we're going to close the public hearing, and we will start discussions.
Why does everyone look at, everyone always looks at me. No, I honestly, that's one of the reasons I asked for, how wide the lot was, what the setbacks were, how wide the final house is at 17 feet. There's not a lot of articulation that can occur within 17 feet. Certainly nothing, and I respect, the public comments that we received. And ideally, if the lot was wider, you could do more articulation, and you could have a structure that spanned over the driveway and that kind of thing that is more compatible with existing conditions in this neighborhood. But given the lot size, I'm not sure there's a lot to be done and also have it marketable. There's only so much you can do on that size of a lot. And, you know, yes, I've lived in Ybor, I've lived in New Orleans, I've lived in shotgun neighborhoods, and it's all dictated by lot width, is what dictates the architecture. So while I believe that it would be lovely if something else could be put on this particular lot that had more articulation and had more mass breakdown and that kind of thing, I'm not sure it's possible given the size of a piece of property.
Yeah, I agree with that. I appreciate what has been done from the first time that the applicant was here until now. I think that because of the size of the lot, that the simplicity is better. And while, you know, I agree that trying to do something else might look forced, you know, and might look kind of halfway, and like it was, an effort was made, but it was not successful. And so I am leaning towards the fact that, you know, the simpler the better on this, as long as the detailing is executed well. And I think that the window trim is one of those that it looks to be, you know, executed well. There's amount of detail that's in there. I do like the smaller columns and the simple columns. I think anything that is larger than that, again, is going to look out of proportion and out of character for what we have. I mean, the lot is dictating this simplicity, I think.
My thoughts are, I'm not the architect on the board here, I'm the contractor as I read these plans, and it just seems like there's a lot of detail that's very gray in materials, in dimensions, in different call-outs that I think just needs to be clarified before I'd feel comfortable approving a set of plans that just seem very vague in their notations, so.
Well, I will agree with that, and the comment was made by the applicant about the front door. He said that here's, you know, an example, right? Okay, so I'd like to get a little more specificity on that and some other details, you know, as we're looking at it.
Yeah, I think that specificity is always good, and about the columns, because the front columns are 10 by 10, it seems to me that the columns on the ADU could be even smaller. It is an even smaller building, and it really should be subordinate to the front house, so maybe the 8 by 8s would be good there. It seems like you're showing that already, but I think that there is some coordination. You've been working on the drawings, and not everything has been, you know, not all of those decisions are reflected consistently across. I also think that perhaps, and I'm going to look at on our staff report in the lower left corner on Robles Street on the south side of the block, I'm looking at the two houses that are on the southwest corner of the block also seem to be quite small. And so I'm just going to look at those and say those have something to do, obviously they are also part of the Tampa Heights Historic District. While they may not be contributing, they are, in their size and simplicity, they are what is happening in that area. And sometimes we are not trying to replicate, but rather be compatible with other perhaps sometimes more elaborate construction in the historic district. And so while this may not have the kind of articulation that is present in some of those really wonderful bungalows, it is not, I feel, incompatible with them. And certainly, if it were moved, if we were to think that the neighboring lot which is 43 by 200, was indeed to get a more elaborate construction on it, that if this house could just grab that setback that kind of says, I'm set back far enough, I am just as important as my neighbor, that might be an effective way of making it seem more a part of the neighborhood. But I do find that as has been said here, that the articulation is consistent with the size of the construction and the size of the lot. So I think that's where I'm standing on this.
So I'm a little torn, because I appreciate that, the public comments, that it doesn't look like or feel like maybe the other homes that are in that area. But I don't know how you do that in 17 feet. I'm not an architect, but I know that 17 feet ain't a lot. And I don't, that means you'd have to take away square footage, if I'm correct. Suddenly if you were pushing back the second floor, you're gonna lose some square footage. If you're putting it in so that you have some difference in the windows, you're gonna be losing square footage someplace, to your point of how then, somebody needs to live there, and that's the point of having, and to the point of the public comment, they want people in that neighborhood and to live, well in that neighborhood and continue to stay there. I'm a little bothered by the windows. They just seem to not match. I'm not sure on the second floor you put a window in the middle. It's to me, it's just gonna look out of place. So that the windows do bother me a little bit, that there doesn't seem to be, some match, some don't have a pair to the top, some ones just seem to be hanging out there on its own on the lower level. So that bothers me a little bit. The other thing that I'm a little concerned about is we haven't, and I don't know that it's really gonna rule the day, but I would have liked to have seen pictures of other homes around this home. Because when we saw the aerial, it did seem that there were homes that had simple roof plans. There were a number of them, actually, on that square.
That's a good observation.
And so,
I saw the same thing.
which means that, right, there's not any difference, we're not in the, they didn't have the Victorian different levels. And so I would have liked to have seen pictures of what the front elevations of those homes look like, to just see what I was seeing on top, which is simple roof lines, but it seemed like there were a number of simple roof lines all throughout. And so, which is what this house has. So that's why I'm saying, at the end of the day, I'm not sure it controls that I don't see the front elevation. But in future, I think it would be helpful to see pictures of what other homes in the area look like.
I think this is basically, it's infill. This is an infill, small lot infill project.
Yeah.
That it's not meant to mimic or copy all the detailing of all the houses in the neighborhood. It's just meant to fill in an empty lot, okay? And not be horrible. And I think this meets that modest goal. Yes, I understand it doesn't have the full, we could increase the setback from the street, for sure. We could get those two buildings, the ADU and the main house, a little bit closer together, kill the backyard, put a little more space in the front yard to kind of help line them up along the street with the other historic properties. Could he add a window or two to some of the elevations? Yes, he could add a window or two to some of the elevations. I don't think he's opposed to that. But otherwise, I mean, there's just not a whole lot you can do with this piece of property.
Yeah, I mean, I was feeling the same as you, that even though it's the primary structure, it's infill. It's almost like it's an ADU. When the houses around it are developed, they have more area to do the articulation. So it in a sense becomes background for the block.
And I've designed a fair amount of infill housing for historic districts.
Yeah.
And they become the plain, Jane, square, unarticulated pieces of the puzzle, whereas, and then that gives the historic houses more prominence, because you recognize the difference between this new, simpler, boxier little shape infill and the historic houses that have more space and more volumetric changes and that kind of thing. And it actually, in my opinion, actually helps the historic houses gain more respect and more prominence by a new structure not trying to imitate them at all.
So the other only comment I'd like to make is in looking at the Tampa Heights design guidelines that are referenced in from the staff report, you know, generally this project meets it. It meets the massing, it meets the materials, it meets the, you know, the trim and I mean, most of it is met, and really what we're coming down to, and I think what I mostly heard from the comments of the public were, you know, maintaining the design within the district compared to, you know, to this house. And I think generally, the design is being maintained. One of the factors is specifically about the roof, and again, from the aerial, you know, view, there are a number of roofs that were similar to this one. So it just seems that with the guidelines that we're governed by, that it would be nice if this lot was bigger to hold a Victorian style home, but our charge is to look at the specific guidelines and see if the project meets the guidelines in connection with materials, setbacks, massing, and the like. And it seems like generally it does meet those, and particularly with the splitting of the property that seemed to flow from discussions with the community, that, you know, those guidelines are met. So while the specific design may not be liked because of the size of the lot, I think the guidelines, we have to work within the guidelines, and the guidelines instruct us that the factors are there, is where I'm coming down.
Yeah, well, I would hope future development sets a higher bar than not being horrible. It's a pretty low bar. But,
Yeah.
no, I think they've done,
That's a positive, okay? Not being horrible is a good thing.
yeah. I think they've made a lot of strides from the last time we saw it. My take is, I do believe it's infill. I do think there's enough compatibility. And it does meet the requirements in my mind. With that being said, I do think the windows need work, orientation of the windows. I think staff is completely capable of doing that. It sounds like the applicant is open to it. I do think the details on materials are a little loose, and
Well,
again,
Elaine did bring up that the stamped stucco is
you
not,
know, right, but
is not
it's-
an allowable finish,
But
so
also
that
the
has.
hardy or the wood, like, hey, we could go either way, well, we would like a say, so we know which way to go
Yeah.
with it. But
I
the staff
did
needs
see,
to-
there was the plywood ceiling was I think, was what was called out in that
Yeah.
wall section. It was a plywood ceiling, and I'd rather see a beadboard ceiling than a plywood ceiling, but, you know,
But again, the inconsistencies between site plan, and I understand why they're there. They updated one drawing, didn't update the other.
Right.
But I do think for the sake of the effort everybody has put in, they need to work with staff to get that consistent so that, you know, this thing can be built correctly and we don't have anything falling through the cracks. Other than that, I think it is, you know, it's gonna be simple, and it's gonna fit the neighborhood, and when something gets developed on the north side, then half of these comments go away anyway. So, but we just need to make sure we have a good list here.
well, the list I just have is smaller columns on the ADU possible, like suggestions, you know, smaller columns on the ADU than the main house, coordinate the site plans with the building plans and the elevations, consider increasing the setback to coordinate and coincide with neighborhood setbacks. consider adding windows and rearranging the windows, in particular to the south elevation.
Well, south and west.
And
Really,
north,
every
and all of
elevation,
them.
Yeah, right.
The west doesn't concern me, basically, it's a backyard facing a backyard. You know, I mean, the public doesn't see that west elevation.
I agree, but
In general.
you're gonna do it.
But, I would move them in so that they're equal distance
right.
from the ends, and the ones that have to be set back because of the closets, make the other ones set back the same distance, there's, you know.
I would say consider all the window placement.
Okay. No exposed plywood, or painted plywood in the porch ceilings. Do not, no stamped brick stucco patterns are allowed in the district. So, you know, smooth stucco is fine as a masonry cover, you know, foundation cover. Those are the only ones I have.
I'd like to add specificity on the door, the front door. I mean, again, there's not a whole lot going on the house, and so we need to really kind of like get specific with a big impact item like the door.
Okay. Was the suggested door unacceptable?
Okay. No, it was acceptable, but it was,
Okay. His wording was
the wording
something
was-
like this.
was a maybe.
Right.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
you know.
It may be that that since we're discussing the door, that we could discuss the lights next to the door, because they seemed, I believe they were 17 inches high, and that's probably a little large for this.
Okay,
So-
more specificity of the front door.
And the
And-
appropriateness of the light
Reconsider scale of light fixtures, of proposed light fixtures.
And back to the windows, it's not only the placement, I do think they have opportunities to tie these windows together.
To pair them.
Yes.
You say to group them or pair them, not on the front elevation, but on the
Not on
sides,
front, but yeah, on the side.
on the
They
sides.
can put the comment,
Yeah.
I'm not sure what you call it. Put
Comment
the
sill.
common, what the public comment was,
Yeah.
to tie them together.
It's a grouping, yeah, they group, the windows be grouped together with a continuous
Or they can.
sill
yeah,
board
yeah,
or whatever,
yeah.
right, sill trim.
Where appropriate, right?
Yeah, we're,
Yeah. Because there are some furniture layouts that can be made fairly tough there.
Understood, yeah, I mean, obviously, in a small house like this, there's only so many walls you can put the bed on and, you know, that kind of thing. With a headboard, and you don't want the windows right behind the headboard, the bed, that kind of thing, I understand. Group windows where possible. All right,
Can we add specifics, thank you, specifics on the trim material, whether it be wood or hardy or
that would be all material, yeah.
all material, right? Just, yeah.
more specific
Need a final selection, that's ultimately what you're
Yeah.
getting.
materials.
Dennis, did you have something?
Just in reviewing the discussion, there was the disparity in the overhangs. So staff would go with a larger 16-inch on both sides and the front and the rear.
You think the front and the rear need to match the sides?
I
It's
think
not a
in
hip
this,
roof.
I think in this case, that's the minimum, because it's gonna look very shallow and lean without some sort of projected overhang.
Okay,
And I would also suggest, as you word your motion, that you substitute staff to review and approve these different components instead of consider, which sounds elective.
To review and approve, correct?
Staff to review and approve as opposed to the applicant considering making a change.
no one else looks like they're writing any kind of motion here. I move to grant a certificate of appropriateness for the drawings and documents presented at this public hearing in ARC 25-000047 for the property at 2904 North Elmore Avenue, with the following conditions. That the applicant review and get staff review and approval on the following items. The scale of the proposed light fixtures adjacent to the front doors, the actual front door specification, the overhangs on the roofs matching both in all cardinal directions, that the site plans are coordinated fully with the plans and the elevations, that the setback be more compatible with adjacent properties and not as proposed, that windows and window configurations and locations and patterns be reviewed and approved by staff, that the stamped brick stucco pattern be eliminated and an alternate finish proposed, that there be no exposed plywood as a ceiling finish, and that the windows be grouped where possible, and there be more specificity of materials. Because, based upon the finding of fact, the proposed project is consistent with the Tampa Heights design guidelines in the city of Tampa for the following reasons. Based on Chapter 27 of the City of Tampa ordinances and massing, scale, and siting as proportionate to this site size.
I'll second.
All right, we have a second. Any discussion? All right, does the applicant understand the conditions that have been put on and are agreeable?
Yes.
Okay. All right, seeing no further discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes unanimously. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to receive and file submitted documents and exhibits.
Motion to receive.
All right.
Second.
All right, no discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. And with that,
Move to approve staff approvals, is that what that? Yeah, that was staff approval?
that includes it.
Oh, that includes the staff approvals, okay,
Yep.
good.
Okay, great. And at that, we will close the hearing.